Good morning. If you want to see how we made this fancy cutting board out of plywood, stay tuned because that's what we're going to do today. Oh, welcome to another Memphis Monday 246, the 38th week of year 5. Today we're going to build this cutting board. The unique thing about it is a fancy cutting board with one of those patterns on it. But we're going to make it strictly out of plywood. And so this is one of those Memphis Mondays where I do the intro after I did the project because sometimes I don't know I'm going to do a project. But let's knock off the chit chat and get to work. This glue up's going to look kind of funny because I plan on ripping the pieces at a 45-degree angle. So the glue up will be kind of offset to allow for that 45-degree cut. Well, I got the glue up finished. I got this kind of a strange glue up because I'm going to cut strips off of here at 45 degrees for the second glue up because I want the patterns to be in a square. But I don't know exactly how I'm going to make this cut yet. My table slide's no good because it's not wide enough. Try something else. I'll make at least the first cut using my skill saw. Okay, after that cut, our pieces are in now a herringbone. But what we have to do now is glue them up, and then I have to cut 1.5-inch strips through this so that we can turn these herringbones into squares. I think if you're going to do a lot of these, a lot of cutting boards and stuff, probably ought to use a roller. put the glue on. I'm just using a paintbrush. Just gluing one side at a time so I can keep it straight. All right, got the glue up finished. Looks like a pretty good glue up. Let's let this dry and we'll be on the roll. I'm ready to cut more strips. Now going this way. I'm a little nervous about it because I think this herringbone pattern looks mighty good, but let me show you what I'm going for. By cutting it again and then re-gluing it, I'm going to get these little square patterns here. And the whole cutting board will be made up of these little squares, in theory. So let's give it a try and knock off the chatter. Make this thing come out square with the little squares. My strips going this way are going to have to be exactly the same width as these others. And that looks like about an inch and a half exactly. Now I've cut a couple of strips. Let's see if this theory's going to work. Okay, there's our herringbone pattern. Now my theory is I can flip each one of these around and I still got a herringbone pattern. There you go. Okay, I have it all laid out here. Make sure I got the pattern right. Now I'll take these pieces one at a time and move them over to the clamps. I broke my rule, and while that last glue up was cooking, I checked the internet, see if anybody else makes cutting boards out of plywood, and naturally they do. But usually they're just straight lines. I didn't see anybody that made them with the square pattern. So maybe we'll be first. Glue up. We'll let this dry for a couple hours. Trim down the ends a little bit and run it through the sander, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, that was fast. been a couple hours, so we'll take this cutting board out of the clamps and run it through the drum sander. Since we're off the chain this week, we're going to continue that theme, and I'm going to coat this thing with epoxy. What'll happen is it will soak into the grain, because this is basically in-grain plywood, so it's going to soak in. And then I'll sand it, and then after I sand it, then I'll put the mineral oil on it. Okay, we put that epoxy on it, and I sanded it back down to where the almost down back to the wood, and now I'll put some of this butcher block oil on it. Well, there it is, our fancy in-grain cutting board we made from plywood for Memphis Monday 246, the 38th week of our 5th year. I don't know if it's a very good cutting board, but it looks kind of cool. And we impregnated the wood with epoxy, and we coated it with mineral oil. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday 246, our 38th week of year 5. Today we built this fancy cutting board out of plywood. As I said during the video, I thought I'd invented something, but I knew I didn't. And I broke my rule and I checked YouTube, and sure enough, there's a million examples of people making stuff out of plywood, mostly chairs and tabletops and that kind of stuff. And even 2 or 3 have made plywood cutting boards, but I didn't see any plywood cutting boards with a pattern. So maybe we're the first to do that. Who knows? But anyway, I don't know if it's a good cutting board, as I said, but it looks good. And so it's a good try. Like, favorite, share, comment, and all the stuff you do on the internet. But most important, make sure you're back here next week for Memphis Monday 247, where it'll be the 39th week of our 5th year. Thanks for playing along.